Plug-in hybrids, well, they're really good at saving fuel. In fact, with how big some of their batteries are these days, well, for the most part, you can really drive them like an EV. But the thing is, those cars, they require a lot of thinking. You have to think about your driving modes, you have to think about regen, you have to think about charging, you even have to think about refueling. That's why I think for the most part, for most people, a hybrid like the car that I'm driving today is a far smarter choice because you really don't have to do anything out of the ordinary to save fuel. But anyway, the car that I'm driving is of course the Toyota Corolla Cross Hybrid. And just to show you how much I really don't have to think about it, well, today's video is really just gonna be me going about my usual weekend routine. And at the end of the video, we'll see just how efficient this car is. Now, that's morning exercise done. I say we go get some brunch. Well, you're probably quite familiar with this car already since it's not exactly brand new. The model has been around in Malaysia since 2021 and it's been recently given a facelift at the end of last year. And I guess you've also probably already seen a lot of this on the roads since it is the best-selling hybrid car in Malaysia after all. And I think there's very good reasons for why this car is just so popular. Hello, yes, can I have the pesto chicken sandwich and ice black please? Now this is the facelift of the Corolla Cross Hybrid, but just like before, it is still powered by the 4th generation Toyota hybrid system. Now that essentially combines a 1.8 litre 4-cylinder engine, a small electric drive motor, a small electric battery, and a whole bunch of other electric wizardry. Now that might sound a little bit daunting or complicated, but in reality, it really is anything but, because this car here really has one of the most effortless hybrid powertrain out there. Because there's no need to faff about with all of your drive modes or regen settings, this car here will automatically decide all of that for you depending on what it thinks is most efficient, be it splitting driving duties between the electric motor or the engine, or even when the battery needs to be charged up directly using the engine itself. Now Toyota says this car has a fuel consumption rating of 23.3 kilometers per litre or just under 4.3 litres per 100 km. So with a 36 litre fuel tank, that means this car here can go for over 700 kilometers in just one tank of fuel. That will cost you just about 60 ringgit. Now if you can get anything close to that today, I'll be very, very happy. After a nice brunch and coffee at one of my favourite weekend spots, it's time to head back out on the road to get some errands done. You know, if I were to describe the driving experience of this car in just one word, I think it would be easy. And I think that really encompasses almost everything from the process of getting into the car and start driving to even the way that it accelerates. Now the 122 horsepower combined output on paper really doesn't sound all that exciting, and yeah, it's not that much power. But I think what this car does really well is having the right power at the right time. At lower speeds, it's the electric motor that is doing most of the heavy lifting. And because of the instant torque response that you get from an electric motor, you'll actually be surprised at how lively this car actually feels in your day-to-day driving, like your usual traffic jams or just driving around town. Now as you move on to the higher speeds, you have the engine and the motor both working together. So actually overtaking on the highway really does feel quite effortless. But most importantly, I think it's also really smooth. Now the computer here really does a very good job at blending together the power from the engine and the motor. So you don't really feel almost anything when the engine kicks on or even gear changes as well. So in some sense, it kind of does feel like you are driving an EV, but maybe better because you don't have to worry about charging or range anxiety. Right, we are just turning into Jaya Grocer now. And even though I did mention that there's no driving modes or anything for you to faff about, there's actually an EV mode over here that I think is perfect for these kind of places, where there are a lot of people or kids even just roaming around, so you don't really want all those petrol fumes to get up into everyone's business, you know. So yeah, like an EV mode that just makes driving around car parks a lot more chill, a lot more eco-friendly, and of course it's also how you eke out that last bit of range from your petrol. What? Grown men cannot buy this, is it? Now, even though this here is a hybrid with a battery somewhere over here, the boot space really hasn't been affected at all. You still get 440 litres of space, which is the exact same number as the non-hybrid variant. And as you can see, the boot space here really is very wide, very usable, with a very big opening here as well. So when you go on your weekend grocery runs to Jaya Grocer, this here is completely no issue at all, even if you have to shop for 10 people. The primary goal of a hybrid powertrain is, of course, to save fuel. But for me, especially on this Corolla Cross Hybrid, being electrified I think has really helped improve the NVH performance inside the cabin. Now, the most obvious example is when you just set off from a standstill using plainly electric power. Like an EV, all you really hear is just a little bit of that electric whirring noise, so it is actually very, very quiet inside. But even when the engine kicks on, most of the time it's also at a low RPM, so all you really hear is just a little bit of that low rumbling noise, so it's not that intrusive either. Well, unless you are gunning the accelerator, of course. What really stood out to me though is just how often this car actually goes into EV mode. It feels like almost every single time I lift off the accelerator, the car will automatically shut off the engine and let it coast by itself. So as a result, you get less noise, you get less vibrations, and driving on a highway in this car is really just very comfortable. Like I said earlier, all of these things really does help make this car feel very easy, very effortless to drive, and that also includes the way it handles. There are no suspension changes as part of the facelift, so like before, it is still a very capable car around the bends with enough sharpness in the steering to really give you that extra sense of confidence as you take a higher speed through those sweeping bends. But again, I just really want to highlight how comfortable and easy it is to actually drive this car. Now, the steering here is nice and light, so going through town or through the car parks is just completely effortless. And then the damping, it is soft to soak up all of the rougher road undulations, but also at the same time it's not wallowy, so you don't get a lot of that side-to-side movements that you often find in taller SUVs. And trust me, your passengers, especially those seated at the back, will really thank you for that. And on top of all that, you've also still got your ADAS system that includes the radar cruise control and the lane centering, or as Toyota calls it, the lane tracing assist. Now, all of these things I think really do add up to make the Corolla Cross Hybrid here a great all-rounder for everyday driving. And I think for most people, you really struggle to find something to complain about here. Now, it's almost evening time now, so let's go to somewhere a little bit more healing, shall we? Now, in case you haven't noticed yet, I am really addicted to coffee. Now anyway, this is gonna take about 5 minutes, so while we wait, why not let me show you the car. Now, as mentioned just now, this here is just a facelift update, so there really aren't that many updates to its design except for one big change, and it is right up in front over here. Now, what's new here is this very unique mesh grille that just kind of appears out of the bumper instead of being a discrete piece like before. Above that, you have this very intricate trim piece that connects the two headlights together, which are brand new as well. I really do like these 4 individual dots here inside the headlights as its light signature, because I think it really does give this car a much more sophisticated, much more upmarket sort of character. But aside from this though, the rest of the car really still is the same Corolla Cross from before. It's got the same overall design, it's got the same 18-inch wheels as before, and all the way at the back here, it's also got the same entire rear fascia, including what they call the waterfall light design at the back over here. But unlike before, if you want something that looks a little bit more edgy, you can also now get the hybrid powertrain on the GR Sport variant, which makes the whole car just look a little sportier with special bumpers, grille design, different wheels, and even a GR Sport specific ECU tune, so it actually drives a little sportier too. Now inside here, it is also pretty much just a nip and tuck, with the new additions here being the new 12.3-inch instrument cluster over here as seen on the regular Corolla sedan, as well as a massive 10.1-inch touchscreen infotainment display up here with now wireless Apple CarPlay and Android Auto connectivity. The rest of the cabin is pretty much the same as before, including your door zone climate control over here with rear aircon vents, your wireless charging pad down here in the center, as well as an 8-way power adjustable driver seat. But because this is just a facelift, it's also inherited some of, let's call it the not so good parts about this car. For one, this piano black trim over here has already attracted a lot of scratches, even though this car only has 3,500 kilometers on the clock. There's not a lot of storage cubbies for your smaller items here in the front, and for a car this big, the rear seats also kind of start to feel a little bit cramped, especially when you compare to its newer rivals. At least it is still a very comfortable place at the back with a reclinable rear seat, and the biggest update of them all, the antiquated foot-activated parking brake is finally replaced by the electronic parking brake here in the center console. Now I think my coffee is just about done. Let's go and chill outside there and talk about what we all came here for today. This is still the best drink on earth. So, after driving for over 80 kilometers today, I've managed to do a fuel consumption of 21.3 kilometers per litre. And over the entire weekend driving this car for more than 350 kilometers, I've managed to do 20.3. Now that is not quite the officially rated figures, but remember, I've done nothing to alter my driving style, I've done nothing to try to save fuel. All I did was really just drive this car like I normally did, and for a car this big, I think that number is already very, very impressive. And based on my brief calculation, I think I should be able to go for up to 630 plus kilometers in just one tank of fuel. And the best part is, if you even just try a little bit, stop driving so fast, stop pushing so hard on the accelerator, you can really push this car past its official rated figures, like we did back then when we drove from the tip of Johor all the way up to the border nearing Thailand. Now, like before, the Corolla Cross Hybrid here really isn't the kind of car that screams for your attention. A facelift really isn't gonna change that. But what this is just a smart and capable SUV for the everyday man like you and me. You really can't go wrong buying one of these, and I think that's what makes this car so great. Now, if you need more information on the Corolla Cross Hybrid, as always, head on over to AutoBuzz.my. If you enjoyed today's video, leave a like down below and leave a comment telling me what kind of coffee you actually like the best. Black, white, latte, you name it. This is Woon. I'll see you in the next one.